Hello there. So every day before I come on and film my iPod for the day, my message for the day, I sort of ask my angels, like, what's really important? What's the message that I need to put out there today? And usually it's, something that is good for me, but it's also a good message for those who are going to be drawn to watch this podcast today. And that message that's kind of the universal law, right? Whatever it is that I need to hear and is going to heal me is also going to be something that's important for my audience. The people who are drawn to watch this are going to need to hear. So over the past few weeks, I have my book that I've been writing for the past few months. I kind of talk about it a lot. And I've been talking to a few mentors because I need to get to this place where it's actually going to go into print. And a lot of times people are asking me to focus on what exactly is it? What's your message here? Why did you write this? What is it? There's usually some event or some process that happens where you kind of get inspired and you say, you know what, I really need to write about this. But in addition to that, it's not like memoirs don't really sell unless it's somebody that is, been out for a while and you really want to hear their story, right? So the question has been from everybody consistently, what is your message and why do you feel like you need to write this book? So I kind of told this story a little bit in pieces, but I wanted to tell you a little bit more today because I kind of felt compelled to. And this is really what I think that my book needs to be about and why I felt like I needed to put it out there, right? So my husband lost his job a good 5 or 6 years ago. He was working for a company that is local, and the company decided to send his job to one of their locations south of here in North or South Carolina. And they said to him, you can have the opportunity to move down there with your family or you're going to be laid off. And he had kind of seen this coming for a few years, so he was pretty prepared for it. And that's one of the reasons that we started our business, right, when we did 10 years ago, because in his mind, he's like, you know what, nothing's permanent. You got to have sort of a backup plan. So his idea was, well, when that time comes, I'll just work for our business, our healing center. Now, keep in mind, my husband is not a licensed therapist, and he's not a healer, at least anything that we can bill for by insurance up to this point, right? So when this happened, he had already been expecting it, and his thought process was, well, that's okay because, in the past, people of our age, we're in our 50s, it wasn't that difficult to get a job. So his thought is, I'm not going to look for a job right away, even though we had known it was been coming for about 6 months before he actually lost his job. He said, I'm going to just kind of wait it out. And because even after his last day of work, they were going to keep him on as a consultant to train the people that were going to take over his job when they moved to the South. We were not moving because we already had our place established. So he just kind of said, I'm just going to take it easy for a while. I'm not going to jump into it. I'll do the 6 months of consulting afterwards. So he's figuring in his head he has a good year. So the day comes where he loses his job, which we were expecting. He is on for another 6 months as a consultant. And then after that, he's getting some severance pay and that sort of thing. So we were okay for a little while. But during this time, he is not really hardcore looking for work, right? Because his thought is still like, and people who are kind of in my age range will know what I mean. Like, it did not used to be as difficult to get a job, right? So he was not thinking this is something that I really need to jump on now. And I'm saying to him, you really need to kind of start looking. And he's like, it's fine. Now, he had been at his job for 18 years. So he had not been in the job market for quite some time, but he was pretty comfortable where he was. He knew what he was doing. He knew the ins and outs of a job. It's hard to start a new job. So I think he was also a little bit nervous about going someplace else after being in the same job for so long. And the other thing in the back of his mind is, I'm going to work for the family business, right? So at some point, so he's, kind of starting to put some feelers out there, and he's putting out some job applications and he's filling things out online, and he's not even getting any hits on his resume. So people aren't even calling him. And then we start to learn things like, well, there are actually like bots that are going through resumes online. Like, so if you don't have the right wording in your resume, a bot may not even pick up on your resume and may even put it to the side. So your resume may not even be getting looked at simply because you don't have the right wording or some kind of an algorithm on your resume or how you answered some of the questions. So now he's in a place where he's like, okay, so now I got to figure out the same resume that I've had and how things always were. The rules have sort of changed. So he started to kind of get a little bit like, well, what's wrong with me? Why aren't people calling me back? So, he gets some tweaks on his resume, people make some suggestions. This is what you can do to get the bots to pick up on you. Still pretty much he's really not, full-time looking for work, because he's still thinking I've got some time and things are going to happen. Well, over time, he's still not getting any calls. I mean, nothing. And then, as you can imagine, when he's been in a job for that long and he's just used to, I'll just make this happen, and he's not even getting any calls, now he's starting to get depressed. Like, why doesn't anybody want me? Now, he's 5 years older than me, so, he's in his mid-50s, and he's like, what, am I just not going to get a job? Like, is nobody ever going to want me for this? Because now we're hearing that companies don't necessarily care as much about the experience. They're more concerned about being able to pay somebody fresh out of college like 20 or 30 grand less than they're going to pay somebody with the actual experience, and that's become more important to companies. So now he's getting like really upset. Like, is there ageism going on out there? And there probably is. And let me know if you in the comments here if you've experienced this. So now he's starting to get really depressed, and now he's not putting out resumes because he's like, screw it. Like, if I put all the time and money into putting these resumes out there and tweaking resumes and cover letters and nobody's answering me, what's the point? So now he's getting depressed, and now he's not doing anything. So now he's 6 months after his job ended. He did the 6 months of consulting, and now he has no work, and we've still got a little bit of money coming in because we have some unemployment. He had his severance pay, that kind of thing. And now he's just home, and he's telling me, oh, you know what, you go to work, because I'm, still running our company. You go to work, and I'll make sure that everything at home is done. Right. So I'll do the shopping and the cleaning. Well, I'd come home from work and he'd be sitting there watching TV, doing nothing, eating chips, and I discussed this with him because I didn't talk about this for a long time because, I don't want to embarrass him, but this is very real. And this is really why I ended up writing my book. So I'm watching him sort of go downhill, and you don't want somebody that you love to feel like that, to feel unwanted, etc. But also, he's not understanding that him going through that is also having me go through that, right? So I'm coming home and he's done nothing. So, and like dinner's not being made and nothing's cleaned and we have no groceries. And I just worked all day at the family business. So, and then when I try to discuss it with them, it's, you're not supporting me, and don't you understand how I'm feeling, and nobody wants me, and all this kind of stuff. So we couldn't even talk about it. And then he got to a point where he said, you know what, I'm going to come work for the family business because I need to make some money. Well, at the time, my mom was my receptionist, my office manager. And he said, we're going to fire your mom so that I can take over her position, because we really need to, I need to have that money and we need to run the business together. And I'm going to do this and I'm going to do all this stuff and get some marketing done and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't really want you to let go of my mom. Now it's getting awkward, right? Because now I have to let go of my mom. And I'm like, nope, I don't really want to do this. I'm fighting it. And his thought is, I don't want to look for jobs anymore. I just want to work for our family business. And this is what we've set out to do. Now, I'm not envisioning this because it's not like what we could pay him as what we paid my mom is going to make up for the salary and pay our bills at home, right? So he comes in one day and decides he's going to tell my mother that, she has to the end of the month and that he's going to take over. As you can imagine, that causes a whole other controversy, right? Because she's got her own bills to pay. She's got things that she's put into place. So now I'm feeling like I'm between. That's not what I wanted to have happen. I don't feel like that's a good idea. He's not somebody who would be okay sitting behind a desk all day and doing what she was doing for me, which I really need to have done. Plus, we're going to need to pay him as much money as he was making at his other job. And by the way, we need health insurance because his job was carrying the health insurance. So now we're going to have to make up for his salary and my salary and pay for health insurance for the two of us. So I'm really kind of freaking out and saying, this is not a good idea, because he really doesn't have any way to generate income for our healing business because he's not a therapist, right? So again, it's, you don't support me. This is what I want to do. I don't want to go work for another company, which, I get, but he's just in a really bad space. So long story short, he comes and works for our company. As you can imagine, over a period of 2 years, it doesn't work. The things that he really needs to do that my mom was doing, that I need him to do as like my right hand, etc. I mean, he was doing the bare minimum, but he was working on projects and things to do here that he wanted to do that were exciting for him, but it's not the stuff that I needed him to do, right? And don't get me wrong, the things that he did automated some processes for us and they were all great, but it's not what I needed, right? So now the company cannot afford to pay the bills for the two of us to be full-time employees to support our bills at home, plus give us health insurance. So what's happening is now I'm tapping into a line of credit for the business to kind of pay the bills. In the meantime, I'm like, you need to go look for a job here because this is not working. Go get healthcare someplace else. Plus, we're together all the time, right? So you can imagine what that's like when a husband and wife are together all the time. And I'm coming in like, I need this done. So we had, there was scanning that needed to be done. That wasn't getting done. Things were piling up, but other processes were happening. So his thought is like, I'm automating all these processes, which did need to happen, but it's not what I needed for day to day. So I'm running all of our business credit that hit the max. I have the overdraft on our accounts. That's nearly hitting the max. And I'm telling him, I don't know how else to tell you this. We can't afford to have you stay there. You have to go do something else. Like, this is just not working, and you're going to run our business into the ground. Now, and I come home every day from work stressed to the max because the things that we need, that the everyday things to run the business are getting done, but things that are piling up. And I'm just like, and the bills are like, the credit that we have is just over the top. I won't tell you the number, but I can tell you that I was stressed to the max, and he is just not moving. Anyway, I finally break through to him, and he decides we're going to bring on my daughter to sort of start learning some of the responsibilities of running the front office. And, he started to do that, which was great, but now we're paying her and him. And so we're still having this trouble. So at some point we just said, you know what, we had to put him on unemployment because the business just couldn't handle it anymore. And we kept my daughter. Now, my daughter did not have a car. And so now the only way that my daughter can get to work so that she can work for us is if I stay home until she's ready for work and then not leave and come to work until she's ready and then go home when she's ready to come home. And as you can imagine, that was kind of a shit show because sometimes she has trouble getting out of bed in the morning. There's no need she doesn't want to come in and get up as soon as I'm getting up. So there are days where I'm sitting in the driveway texting her going, where are you? I'm ready to leave. So now I'm getting stressed out because, so now my husband's home getting unemployment. He's not, he's, going to be coming in doing a couple things for work, but he's collecting unemployment. He's home looking for work. He's still depressed because he's not getting anything. I'm waiting in the driveway because my daughter's not moving and I can't get to work until she's ready to leave. I was really stressed out to the max, and he had left huge amounts of things, particularly like scanning and that sort of things. We are like considered a healthcare practice. So we have to scan all of our files and save them. So there's like huge amounts of scanning. The bills are overdue. So I was really stressed out to the max. So about a year ago, and then we also, in addition to that, we had, therapists. There was normal attrition here. We had therapists that were leaving. And usually I have people kind of calling me and being like, can I come work for you as one of your therapists? And I was trying to put out feelers when the normal attrition was happening and therapists were leaving. I was putting out ads to have other people come in. And for the first time since we had opened, I was not getting any hits on people, on ads for people to come in as therapists. And I was spending, on certain sites, $500, $600, $700 on ads that were getting no hits. So now I'm spending money that I don't have to try to bring in therapists, and nobody's answering the ads. So I have therapists leaving, nobody filling their place, and nobody's answering these ads, and I'm still spending more money. So as you can imagine, my stress level hit the roof, and I was really in a really bad space. I felt like I was the only one sort of getting motivated and getting to work, and I felt really lonely. So right before the pandemic hit, which was March of 2020, so a little over a year ago, one of my therapists who was full-time told me that she was going to be leaving and opening up her own practice 10 miles down the road from us. And and kind of was like, she was going to slowly open up her space. And I was like, okay, I'm maxed out. And then the pandemic hit. And then all of a sudden, just like that, our business stopped. So that was probably when I was at my all-time low, because now I'm at home. I can't leave the house. I'm losing it. My husband did end up getting a job, way lower pay than he, as a project manager, that he should be making. And he is not liking the job. He's actually still there, and he is not, it's not the kind of work, it's not the kind of place where he should be. So he's really struggling with that. So in that same place. So the pandemic hits, and then I talked to a friend who is also a medium, and she said, you've got to put out there, because I'm like praying, and at that time I was not aware of the fact that I was a medium. And I said, I really need some help here. Please send me something. Send me mentors, tell me people that are going to go in the right direction. So this is going into a way longer story, and I'll tell, other pieces of it. But she said, you need to start putting out there that you're grateful and thankful for an abundance of therapists, an abundance of, love and support, etc. She said, you need to put that out there every single day, even if you're not feeling it, because when you put that out there and you vibrate higher, you're going to attract that to you. So I really listened to that. And that was difficult to do when I'm in this low place. But I started doing that every day. I started going in saying I'm thankful and grateful for the abundance of therapists that I have. So the therapists that I do have, I'm thankful and grateful for the friends and the family that I have in my life. And then things started to shift. As soon as that happened, I decided to start, I had some angel cards that I wasn't using. So I decided to come back into the office, and we were able to see clients through telehealth. And we slowly over the weeks, started to figure out how we were going to still provide services to people. And I figured out, okay, there's going to be some help from the government to keep our bills going so I can pay myself and my daughter and our therapists, etc. We can figure out some processes. I really had to put stuff out there. In the meantime, my daughter still didn't have a car. I'm still waiting for her bidet to go into work. So over the next few months after that, we started to have an abundance of clients, because people really needed as you can imagine, the support during the pandemic, even more than we normally did. I had one therapist come on, which I'm so grateful for. She's still with us, that we've had for almost a year. And then a couple of months after that, before the end of the summer, another therapist who was a friend who kept telling me, I'm going to come work for you. I'm going to come work for you. Finally just said, you know what? I'm ready. Can I come work for you now? So now, in the span of a couple months, when I hadn't been able to bring anybody on for a good year and a half, 2 years, now I have two people that are amazing. They're very passionate, and they love what they do. They're very talented, and I just like them as people. They're good people. So I had two more people come on, and then and a friend, a family member, an aunt, had a vehicle from her husband who had passed, and she wanted to give it to us. Just give it to us, or for not that much money. And it didn't have that much mileage on it. And I'm like, okay, so this is a vehicle for my daughter. So we put some money into the vehicle and then got that on the road. So now she can come in when she's ready. I don't have to wait for her anymore to come into work. I'm trying to, model for my husband, my daughter, everybody around me, that I'm going to keep my vibrations up. I'm going to be a role model to other people and really raise those vibrations. And because I need that for myself. And then I hope to also influence other people, because you cannot bring abundance to you. You cannot attract what your soul and heart desire and what you need unless your vibrations are higher. So that's really what the message is of my book, is that how do you focus on yourself, because you can't change everybody else. And in changing yourself, that vibration will feed other people. That will lift the vibrations of everybody around you. And people who are ready for a transformation will feed off of the energy. So I'm encouraging you to do the same. And I'm not telling you that it's easy, because I certainly have my own challenges, right? But what I'm saying to you is, if I can do it, you can do it. So please like my channel. I'm going to be putting out this book. I would love to say it's going to be out by the end of the year, about how to get your vibrations up there and attract the same abundance that I'm attracting. Thank you.